good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me. We're going to get started. So I can see we've got about 34 people in the Zoom session with me, and I see I've got about 14 people in the Nearpod lesson with me. This is a very interactive session. You'll get to try some of these activities out from that student's perspective, which is so important to get to see things from both perspectives. So if you can, head on over to the chat, click on the link that you see there. Join me in this session. Now, also, I'll be sharing my screen with you, and you'll notice that the teacher version, the teacher's view of Nearpod is different. On my screen right now, you're seeing that teacher view, where I can see the list of my learners' names, all the data and scores from the activities right in front of me. Now, your view will look like this, which is the student's perspective, where you see the activities. And we'll be going back and forth at times. There'll be some times where I'll want you to see my screen that I'm projecting to you. And so you will be navigating back and forth between tabs at some point at the top of your browser. Now, if you want to have both views at the exact same time, one thing you can do is to run a split screen. If you take your browser window and you click and hold on the side and drag it to about the middle, you can click and drag one of the tabs off the top as well, off to the side. So you've got a side-by-side view. That's one strategy that could work for you to see both the teacher view, which will all be projecting, and then your view of the lesson that you're in as a student as well. Or simply just go back and forth between tabs as well. That's totally fine, whatever works the best for you. But once again, if you're just now joining, I'll put the link in the chat again. Head into the chat, click that link, join us in this activity, and let's go through these matching pairs real quick together. My name is Jason Clark. I'm a district strategy consultant with Nearpod on the professional services team. I'm based in the state of Texas. In my spare time, I love to hike and explore all around the country with my family. My favorite movie of all time is The Goonies, and I won't debate with anybody. It's a pure cinematic masterpiece. Born and raised in Oregon. This picture here is a picture of Crater Lake, one of the most beautiful places on the planet. It's a volcano that erupted about 7,000 years ago, collapsed upon itself, and then filled with rainwater and snow melt. And it's one of the most beautiful blues you'll ever see, and it is the deepest lake in North America. Received both of my degrees in Oregon, and lastly, I'm an educator. I've been in education for over 23 years now, 18 years as a classroom teacher, and then 3 years as a technology instructional coach, and another 3 years as a district innovation specialist. I've used Nearpod in the classroom as a teacher. I've implemented it within schools and districts, and I just 100% believe in the power of this learning tool that you have available to you. And hopefully you'll get to see that today as we start to work through our session today. All right, so my contact information is right here. If you do need to reach out for anything, even after this session, feel free to take down my contact information at jason.clark@nearpod.com or reach out on Twitter, jpclark03. I'd love to celebrate those amazing things you're doing in the classroom as well, or at your schools within your district. Just know that I'm here to support you. And I'll have this up at the end as well, so you don't have to write anything down right now. So our session today is learning with Nearpod. Now, before we get going I want to say that this is a webinar, which means it's kind of one-way communication. And so being one-way communication, one of the best ways to communicate with me is through the chat. So if you have any questions during this time of something that comes up that you're wondering about, throw that into the chat, and I'll be monitoring that the entire time as well. And I'll try to answer it live as we're working through. So Nearpod, right here, this is an introduction to transforming student devices into powerful learning tools. We're going to start real quick with a poll though. I'd love to know what you already know about Nearpod, and you can check all that apply here. If you take a look, you'll see the different choices. A, I am brand new to Nearpod. I can find pre-made lessons in the Nearpod library. I can launch lessons in live and student-paced mode. I can access post-session reports. I can edit existing Nearpod lessons, and I can create my own lessons in Nearpod. Where are you on this spectrum? And you can choose more than one as well. This poll activity is a great way to, 1, check for prior knowledge. 2, check for understanding continually throughout your lesson. I'll show you the teacher view here. If you take a look at my screen, I can see every single learner right in front of me here. All of my learners are right here. I can see all the individual data that comes through. but I can also see a cumulative review in that upper left-hand side, where I can get a great overview of my class as a whole. Now, I want to say right up front too, this view that I'm sharing with you on my screen, kind of the behind the scenes of looking at the data, I will not share this view with my students. In the classroom, I will not project this up on the whiteboard or on my projection screen because this is data that is for me to see as an instructor. My students, when they all have individual devices, they're seeing exactly what I need them to see on their screen at that time. So I do not have to project this up. Nearpod is a safe place for students to share their opinions, to share their voice and their answers, free of fear and free of judgment. Now, the great thing about the poll, though, if I want everybody to see the data, I can just click on the share button and take over their screen. Everybody take a look at the data here. I can see that about 31% of us here are brand new to Nearpod. That's fantastic. And I can click unshare and bring it back. Now, whether they're face-to-face with you or 2,000 miles away, it doesn't matter. It's going to change their screen. So thank you for sharing this. This helps me as I go forward too, to kind of know where you're at. All right, so now we're going to start with our learning objectives for today. If you take a look at our learning objectives, you'll notice that they are interactive. I could just throw this slide up on the screen for everybody, but I've turned these learning objectives into a draw it activity. So you'll notice you have some tools down below. You'll have a pencil tool. If you click on the pen tool, actually, you can change the size and thickness of that pen tip. You can choose your color, and you can use it to write on your screen. There's a highlighter tool as well that you can use. It does the same thing, it's just translucent. And you have a text box. You can add a text box and move it wherever you want to and resize it to type in an answer as well. And you also have the ability to bring in an image you want. This is called the Draw It tool. We're going to talk about it some more a little later, but I like to use this for the learning objectives. What I'd like you to do is to go through these learning objectives and maybe highlight, circle those things that stick out to you the most. And if there's something you're specifically hoping to learn today, go ahead and create a text box and type it in. I'll give you just a couple minutes to interact with this. One thing I want to share with you on the teacher side of things, if you glance at the teacher view that I'm projecting now, you'll notice that I can see every learner's screen right in front of me. It's all right here. So I can monitor progress as they're doing work. And it's not quite live. I'd say it's almost live. There's about a 5 to 10 second delay from when a learner marks on their background to when it shows up on my screen. I can see if they're in progress, they're interacting with the tools. And if they're not yet, it'll remain black. Make sure you do click submit once you're done with your answer. That'll let me know that you're ready, and it'll turn green on the screen. At any point in time, you can zoom in on a learner's view as well to take a look. And you'll notice there's a share button, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But I can monitor progress the entire time. One great thing about this tool as well, this Draw It tool, is I just use one of our slides. But you can put any background you want into a Draw It tool. In fact, you don't have to put a background at all. You can leave it, if you leave it blank, it just gives students a whiteboard to use that they can write on, draw on with the tools, bring in their own images to annotate. It's an extremely powerful tool. All right, so in 10 seconds, I'm going to switch the screen here. So in about 10 seconds, make sure you try to click submit. If you just joined the lesson here with me, the session, take a look in the chat. If you click on that link, you can join us and do these activities run along with us. Great question in the chat. If students use the draw, will it save a copy for them of the slides? Yes. If the students submit their answers, there's a way for them to get copies of these. Now, one thing I'm going to invite you to do right now, and I'm going to jump into this lesson real quick as a student to walk you through this process. 1 second here. So if you look at my screen, I'm joining this lesson as a student as well. And I want to share a tool with you. If you look in the upper right-hand side of the student screen, you'll see this piece of paper and pencil. If you click on that, that is the note-taking tool. So if you want students to have a copy of every single slide, with notes attached to those slides, and every slide that they interacted with, any activity. If they did the draw it activity, they would have a copy of all those backgrounds that they drew on. You click on this pencil and paper tool, it opens up. It'll ask where you want these notes sent, via email, saved to your Google Drive, or saved to your OneDrive. So I'm going to click Save to my Google Drive because that's what I use. You just choose your Google account and allow it access. Choose the folder you want it to go to. And once you choose that location, you'll notice that that panel opens up so you can take notes here. Out to the side. And you'll notice the current slide that I'm taking notes on is at the top. And if, as a teacher, I change the slide, and I'm still taking notes, or I'm going to change the slide now, notice I'm still taking notes on slide 6, but I have the option to finish those notes and then to click Take notes on current slide down at the bottom. Now, what happens here is that as soon as I, as the instructor, end the lesson, a single document will be sent to that location that has a copy of every single slide with your notes attached to it and every answer that you find, or any answer that you submit within those notes. So this is a great way for students to take notes during the lesson and then get their responses to any of the activities as well. So we're going to watch a quick video right now. And on my screen, as I launch a video, you notice it says teacher play or student play. I'm going to choose teacher play right now. And when I do that, you'll notice on that lesson, it says eyes up front, because I need you to look up front. This is the one time that I would project my screen, is to play that video up in the front of the class for everybody. And if you click student plays, students can all play that video at their own time, at their own pace, on their own screen. But one thing about that to remember is that when they're all playing that video, it's all at different times. So all that audio is going to be at different times as well. And it can be very distracting for students if they don't have headphones in of some kind. So this is where personally I like to project it up front. So I'm going to project and play this quick video about Nearpod. And so make sure you're watching my screen. Here we go.
Introducing Nearpod. With Nearpod, you can make every lesson interactive. Launch lessons your students can't wait to join. With interactive slides, interactive video, gamification, and activities.
So you notice now it stops on your screen and you have a question, a multiple choice question. Which of the following ways are you most interested in, or most ways are you most interested in learning about? Interactive slides, interactive video, gamification, or interactive activities. This is an example of an interactive video. In all of our videos in Nearpod, they're interactive, which means there's formative assessment questions already embedded within them. Now you can use them, you can turn them off, you can edit them, or even add your own. And you'll notice on the teacher screen, my screen, I get a pie chart and the data coming through live of student responses. Also, you get all the data to these questions in the report section afterwards as well. So any video that you even bring into Nearpod, you can make it interactive just like this. All right, so I can see right now, interactive slides, followed by interactive videos are our main focus today that everyone's most interested in. So, all right, I'm going to continue the video. Here we go.
As the teacher, you always know where your students are with Nearpod's formative assessments, including polls, open-ended questions, and more. Get started with what you already have. Add the power of Nearpod to your existing PowerPoints, worksheets, videos, Google Slides, and other curriculum resources you love. Create active video experiences to check for understanding with built-in interactive questions. Increase engagement with gamification and activities, including time to climb, draw it, drag and drop, and more. Get started even faster with our library of pre-made standard-aligned lessons, videos, and activities built in partnership with some of your favorite educational brands. Use them as is or customize to meet the unique needs of your students. Once you're ready to launch your lesson, choose the teaching mode that works best for your setting. In live participation mode, you control the pace, and students participate on their devices, in person or virtually. In student-paced mode, students move through and participate on their own, working from home or in class, in centers, stations, or groups. Toggle between live and student-paced lesson delivery with live to student-paced mode to address misconceptions on the fly and differentiate for student needs. With front of class mode, You can use Nearpod without student devices and facilitate collaborative discussions. Your students will love lessons that combine interactive slides, interactive video, gamification, and activities. You'll love using insights from more than 20 formative assessments and dynamic media experiences to guide your teaching, adapt instruction, differentiate, and improve student outcomes. However you teach, it's in Nearpod.
All right, so you'll see now we have an open-ended question. And based on what you've learned so far, how would you describe Nearpod to a friend? And just a quick few words here. You'll notice that you can type your answer in there. I'll give you just a minute to answer. On the teacher view, you'll notice I can, in the upper right-hand side, I can see a participation percentage. So you can roughly see exactly about what percentage of your class has responded. So you kind of know where everyone is at that time. Then once their answers come up, you can take a look and read their answers right here on your screen. Seeing some great answers here, and everybody's right on the mark with it too. It offers the availability to interact in real time with your students as a digital tool, interactive, engaging multiple ways to deliver instruction, dynamic online teaching tool, an interactive tool that allows students to respond to content slide by slide if desired. Everybody's right on the mark. All right, thank you so much for sharing. So I'm going to skip past that very end of the video. There's not much left there. We're at the end of it, basically. It's going to show a little advertisement. All right, so as we continue here, what is Nearpod? And that's a question that we get a lot. It's a way to actively engage students while providing teachers with real-time data to drive instruction. Now, I look at Nearpod a couple different ways. I look at it as a couple things. One, Nearpod is a presentation platform, but there's other presentation platforms out there. Google Slides, PowerPoint, Keynote, but we go a lot farther than that. And we look at ourselves as a student engagement platform. And I like to even go as far as to say it's a teacher engagement platform as well. Because of all the amazing dynamic media that we have to engage our student with our content, and as well as the forms of assessment that we have to reach all of our different learners, and it's engaging as well. And we can see results real time. Now, the second part of what Nearpod is it's a lesson package. You have access to over 8,500 plus standards aligned lessons right here within the package already. You can search for them, download them, and teach within minutes. Plus, any lesson that you download is editable, which means you can differentiate it, personalize it, make all the changes you want to it. Also, we have thousands of videos in our library that are ready to go. And so we're going to walk through that together. So taking a look at these bullet points here, it's instruction provided from the front of class to whole or small groups. One thing I loved about Nearpod as a teacher is that I was not tethered to that front whiteboard anymore. I can move around amongst my students because you can teach Nearpod pretty much from anywhere. If you have a laptop, you can run it from an iPad, or even in a pinch, you can even run it from your cellular device if you need to. It allowed me to immerse myself with my class, strategically place myself for classroom management purposes or near students that need more support. This next bullet point, the teacher led with discussion and formative assessment strategically placed. Traditionally, when I would teach a lesson in the past, I'd teach my lesson and then have to assess, whether that be a quiz of some kind, an essay, whatever that assessment may be. And then I have to score that assessment, take a look at the data and evaluate it, and to see what next step I need to take with my group. So I need a small group. What individuals do I need to touch base with, or can we progress? And that takes some time. Now with Nearpod, because of the ways that we interact with our assessment pieces, our tools, you can see that data real time. You can literally differentiate on the fly, which is powerful. But to me, the most important part of this is this very last bullet point. It allows 100% student participation. We can reach all of our students. We have such varying levels of students in our class with different needs. And with this tool, we can address those needs all in one place. And so we're going to talk about that here. We're going to start with this question, but I want you to think about it and not answer it just yet. What can happen to learning when every student has the opportunity to participate with every question? This is an open-ended question, and you experienced one of these just a little bit ago. Now, taking a look at this open-ended question though, a student can simply type their answer in the box. But I know that not all of my students have the ability to do that. They can't all type in the box. They can't process that way. Maybe they can't type. They struggle with spelling. There's anxiety about that, so they don't interact. With open-ended question here though, any of the open-ended questions in Nearpod, with a flip of a switch, you can enable student audio recording. You'll notice there's a record audio button here. So all a student would have to do is to click on it and speak. They can speak their answers and it records their voice. And on the live screen, I can see a play button where I can listen to it privately myself, but I get all the audio samples in the report section afterwards, so I can go through and listen to all their answers afterwards as well. Well, let's go a step further here. This is a live lesson, right? I read that question out loud to you, but I know that not all of my students could access that text on their own, maybe above their reading level. So if you'll notice this tool in the upper right-hand side, it's a book and a speaker icon. This is called the Immersive Reader tool. It's available, you can make it available on almost all the activities within Nearpod. So all a student would have to do is to click on that. It opens up the text in the directions and the possible answers in a quiz and a poll. It makes it nice and large on their screen, and all they have to do is to click the play button.
Think about it. What can happen to learning when every student has the opportunity to participate with every question?
So now we've just made this text accessible for our struggling readers, our EL students, any students that need some support. And if this is too fast, they can go to voice settings and slow it down if they want to. There's other options in the upper right-hand side, text preferences. They can change the size of that font if they need to see it better, or the background color to filter it. There's grammar options as well. They can split all the words up into syllables to help with their reading, and you'll see different parts of speech. If I click on nouns, every noun turns that color. You'll also see reading preferences. In there, they can turn on line focus and focus in on just that line that's being read to help with tracking. There's a picture dictionary. So if a student clicks on the word, they can listen to it individually.
Think.
And it also brings up images to help with context and word meaning. And right below that, you'll see a translate feature. And in that drop down, there's about 60 different languages the student can choose from. So if they find their home language here, and if they click on document, it changes that entire document to that language that they can then listen to in that language.
Piénsalo. ¿Qué puede pasar con el aprendizaje cuando cada estudiante tiene la oportunidad de participar con cada pregunta?
Once they listen to it, they can click that arrow at the top and go back and then respond either through text or audio. So that's the Immersive Reader tool. It's extremely powerful, especially during those student-paced sessions, which are asynchronous, where students are working at their own time and own place. They have some support there in the activities. So now let's think about that question again. What can happen to learning when every student has the opportunity to participate with every question? And I'm going to give you a minute just to answer that, but I'd also like you to try that tool out if you want to. Click on it, listen to it, try out one of the languages, and then go ahead and answer the question here. We'll come back. I'm going to give you about a minute to do that. And then I'm going to read some of these out loud as well as they start to come in. All right, thank you so much for participating here. Let's take a look at some of these. I take a look in the chat here. How do they choose which words will have pictures when you click on them? That's a great question. I honestly, I don't know the answer to that. This immersive reader tool is a Microsoft product that if you're in Microsoft district, it's available on all their products as well. So I'm not 100% sure on how they choose what words get images to them, but I'll try to find out before we're done here today and try to add that into the chat. So let's look at some of these answers here. It increases engagement for students and gives teachers, gives a teacher a chance to assess their level of understanding, increases the likelihood of retention of skills and content, supports access to content. Yes. Barriers will be broken down and instruction can be differentiated to meet the needs of individual students. Absolutely. All students will walk away learning something that is salient to them to move them forward. One can receive a variety of responses and perspectives. That's very important right there. Every voice is heard. Right there says it all. Kids who are shy and don't like to speak in front of classes can still respond. Kids who are learning English and aren't confident with writing can still respond, and you know what they are thinking and how much they've learned. Right there, it's a perfect point to talk about this tool even more. You'll notice that as a teacher, I see all the responses coming through right now on my screen. One of the pieces with this is that we know our students in our class. We know them. And we know that if I ask for volunteers and I ask for volunteers to share answers, I maybe get 5 or 6 hands raised, and it's usually the same hands. There are a lot more voices in our class than that. A lot of times all these students need is some positive reinforcement that what they have to say matters. It's meaningful, it's important, it's valid. And with this tool, we can help them along with that. And so what I can do is to take a look at the student responses, and I notice a student that, hey, this student will not respond, but I can help them. You'll notice a share button out to that right-hand side. Watch what happens when I click on this here. Everybody take a look at your screen here. I'm gonna click share. Notice what happens to your screen. Everybody take a look at this answer right here. You get more engagement and more learning happens. This is right on the mark. Thank you so much for sharing this. You'll notice that there's no name attached to it. It's anonymous. Anytime you can share student work out, it's anonymous, there's no name attached. Now, here's how this can be powerful. You'll notice sometimes that student might look around a little nervous because they notice that's my work. Everybody's looking at it. They get some praise with it. And maybe we use it to drive the discussion further. Everybody take a look at this answer. Let's talk about it. Turn to your shoulder part and let's talk about this. How can we expand on this? You've just validated what they have to say. And that's helping our students to become risk takers. I've seen it dozens of times in the classroom with this tool. You will see some more risk taking from these students. You'll see some more engagement, more volunteering. They just need a little help with that. And so it's a great way to share this out. How do we ensure consent before sharing a student's answer, even if it's anonymous? That's going to be a judgment call on your part. Because I'm not sharing my screen out, they're not going to know who has said what. When I send it out on my screen right now that I'm projecting, that's what it is. It's just that student response. And you just, as a teacher and instructor, would have to make that judgment call whether you share that out or not. Because it's anonymous, it's a non-threatening way, but their voice is heard there. And you don't have to say whose it is at all. But as far as audio responses now, audio I would not share. If a student used audio, audio would show up as a play button right here on their screen. Voices are identifiable. And so I would never share audio out unless the student verbally said, yeah, you can share mine. Otherwise, I would leave that audio till the end in the report section where I would evaluate that at the end. All right, so as we move on here, these are some of the answers that we typically see right here. Transforms teaching and engagement, gives every student a voice, checks for student understanding and misconceptions, identifies students who are not mastering content, and we get the support sharing diverse perspectives, opinions, and ideas. All right, so we're going to jump in now to another tool, and this is a collaborate board. It's like giving everybody a sticky note to share up on the board. And now you'll notice this is the question here. How do you currently facilitate conversations? And what are some challenges that you or your students are experiencing during classroom discussions? To respond, you simply type into the box below, and you can respond through images as well, and simply click the post button, and it throws that sticky note up there. And you can post more than once if you like. Yep, it is sometimes the same. Some students do all the sharing, ask questions that probe what they already know, then ask them what they want to learn. That's great. Think, pair, share, hearing all the voices. That is a struggle, definitely. Same students doing all the sharing. And ask a question, students don't want to share. Absolutely. Think, pair, share. So we're seeing a pattern here. We're all seeing the same issues. Now, we have to help project all of our student voices. We need to bring all the voices and perspectives to the table. And with these kinds of tools, with an open-ended question where it's anonymous and we can help them to share out because, or this tool here involves a little bit more risk because their statements are on the board for everybody to see. But I want you to notice something here too, from that student's perspective. From the student's perspective, let me refresh my screen here. You'll notice that every one of these sticky notes, there's no names attached to it. These are all anonymous as well. So it's kind of that next step where students can share their answers, but letting them know that their answers are anonymous. No one can see who posted what, but it is out there for everyone to see. But knowing that it's anonymous, you're going to get a whole lot more student involvement here. You're going to get a whole lot more perspectives on that table and a lot more voices heard. And so it's important that they know that this is anonymous as we share. Now on the teacher side, I can see all the names of who has responded as well. This is on my screen now. This is what it looks like from the teacher side. If you look at the screen that I'm projecting, I can see student names attached to these sticky notes. I also have a trash can button, which the students don't. So if something inappropriate is posted real quick, I can delete it very fast if I want to. Whenever you launch one of these as well, you get prompted a question. If you want to approve student posts before they're shown, or yes or no question, basically, or just let students post. And that is a real personal preference. Personally, I like to say no, because I love to build that expectation right off the bat with students about digital citizenship. Really holding those conversations that, hey, remember, think before you post. Anything you post online is there forever. And they know that it's anonymous, but letting them know too that you can see who has posted what. And so you set up those expectations, and I personally have not seen any problems in the classroom with that myself, because that expectation is set, and that's not to say that won't happen. So if your preference is to preview these before they're posted, absolutely choose the yes, I want to preview ahead of time. So you'll notice as well that all these sticky notes are posted chronologically in the time they're posted. And I can tell with that by that clock icon on the upper right-hand side. Now, I love to use this tool all by itself, not even in the lesson, but I like to use this to help start a classroom discussion. If I was to just post a question up on the front board and have a class discussion, we're going to get just those 5 or 6 hands that are raised. But with this, I can get 100% student response because I can see those that have posted. I can go in and change and reorganize these. If I click on the clock icon, I can reorganize these students' names A to Z. It's going to alphabetize by student name on here. Now, students don't know that because it's anonymous. But I can go by and see alphabetically. I can see this student hasn't responded. I can go by and prompt, hey, make sure you get your answer up there. Get their answer up there. And then I can have my students go through and say, hey, everybody go through now, read everyone else's responses. And you'll notice there's a heart button here, a like button. Go through and I want you to like 1 or 2 that resonate with you the most, or that we want to expand on, or that just sticks out to you, whatever it is, the question you want to ask. From there, as a teacher, I can go up and reorganize these by likes. And so it shifts them all up to the most liked topic, which then we can drive that classroom discussion further. Now I have some talking points here. Everybody take a look at these. Let's take a look at this one here. And we can drive that discussion further. Now, a lot of times what I see is a lot of times those topics, those sticky notes that are driving that discussion further are from some of those students that we never hear from. because sometimes those students have some of the most profound things to say and to share. We just don't get to hear them. They don't have a vehicle for themselves to share, a platform. And so with this tool, I can use this to start a digital discussion and then take it to our face-to-face class discussion. Then we have these points that I can pose the question, turn to your partners here, let's talk about this further. This tool and the open-ended question are ones that I love to use all by themselves, even to start a classroom conversation, to get those voices heard. All right, thanks everybody. So let's progress here a little bit. Using some of these different tools to spark a conversation. The open-ended question we talked about, a way for students to type a response or to record their audio. A poll. We took a poll already. The poll tool is fantastic because we really get shared opinions, true opinions. If I'm to ask everybody raise your hand if you feel this way, I may get a hand raised and then they look around, look at their peers, and that hand may come down again. They're basing their opinions on others around them. But you give them a poll in here, it's a safe place for them because nobody can see who's chosen what. We want our students to have an opinion and take a stance. And then the draw it tool. And you experience that a little bit with our learning objectives, but it allows students to express creatively and they can share with images. They can bring their own images in to annotate. So right now, we're going to do a draw it tool here. So you can explore it a little bit further. It says, in this lesson, we already experienced several interactive activities. Use the pen or highlight tools to indicate which activities you could use to facilitate discussion or have students demonstrate their learning. And then use a text box to share your why in the space provided. So you'll notice there's some reference media in the question up at the top that kind of shares with you what the tools do. If you want to get rid of the instructions, simply click on the word instructions, the blue box, and it gets rid of those. And someone brought up a great point in the chat as well on the menu bar. If you want these tools, if I start to use this pen tool and I start to draw with it, you'll see those tools go away. If you want to lock those in place, click that lock button that's down near the submit button. It'll keep them there even when you're working on it. And that's an advantage to keep those tools in its place. Sometimes though, sometimes the background gets covered and you'll need it to go away. So it really just depends on your usage there. But use the tool to circle those pieces or the highlighter, and then the text box. Include a text box. Click on the crosshairs to drag it where you want to. Click and hold on one of the blue squares to drag and resize it. Now, if you click in the text box, you can begin to type. Now, if you want to change the size and color of that font, once you start to type, click on the text icon again, it's the two T's. Then you can click and drag and slide and change the size of that font to whatever you want and even change the color of it there. But I also challenge you, if you want to bring in a picture. You can click on that image icon that's here and you can bring in a file from your own device or do a safe Google search to bring in your own image. And this is a tool that's available for students to use as well. Then once you're done, click on that submit button. So I'll give you just about 2 minutes to interact with this, to try these different tools out, even try out that immersive reader tool that you see up there as well, the little book and speaker icon. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes and then we're going to come on back together again. So I'm going to launch a quick timer here. There we go. If you have any questions, let's pop them right into the chat and I'll do my best to answer them. All right, our 2 minutes is up. Welcome back, everybody. All right, so let's take a look here. Oh, fantastic. I love looking around and seeing some image use there. That's fantastic. Great work. Great use of images here. This is one of the powerful tools that it's one of the most popular tools, but extremely powerful because students can bring in their own images. And down the road, when I start sharing some of the different kinds of content that we have, they can take screenshots of what they're exploring in our content and bring it into an activity like this, where they can then annotate on the top of it. So thank you for sharing with this. We're going to continue now. There's a question in the chat about the timer that I used. Now, I'm going to share that with you pretty quick here. Let me get to here real quick because we're going to jump into Nearpod yourself. And once we get into your own Nearpod account, then I'm going to share with you where that timer is at and how you can use it. So at this point in time, I'd love to have you open up a tab, another tab on your browser, and log into your Nearpod account. Now, I believe your district uses Clever. So if that's how you have to get into Nearpod, get into Clever and get into Nearpod, or however it is you get in with your district account. Once you get there, you'll be at your Nearpod homepage. Your Nearpod homepage will look similar to my screen right now. You'll have the Nearpod logo on the upper left-hand side. You'll have this gray navigation bar as well down below here. Thank you. Everybody sees a message from Kathleen in the chat right now as well. Make sure you check in the chat right there if you're having some trouble getting into Nearpod or Clever. She has some directions for you right there. Thank you for sharing that, Kathleen. Once you're at your Nearpod homepage, once again, it'll look similar to mine. You've got that gray navigation bar down the left-hand side, the Nearpod logo. The middle section where my folders are, this will be where any lessons that you create or download will live, or any folders you create as well. That's where your content will be that you create or download. The upper right-hand side, you'll see a couple options. You'll see a create button with a drop-down. You'll see a quick launch with a rocket. The quick launch is where you can launch 2 different activities, open-ended question or a collaborate board, and the timer. And so if you wanted the quick timer on your screen, you just go to the quick launch, which is the rocket, click on the timer, choose what you want, and then quick launch, just like that. Now, the great part about this is, even though I've got you in a Nearpod lesson with me, I just opened up another tab and got into my Nearpod account again and launched that timer. So it may require to navigate back and forth between a couple tabs if you want to use that timer during a lesson. Now, one great thing about Nearpod activities, and once we start looking at the activities, most of our activities, you can add a timer right in the middle of the lesson. It's built into the activity. So for example, on a draw activity, you've got 2 minutes to complete this activity. It'll count down for them right there. And so I'll show you how to set those timers up as well. All right, so is anyone having trouble getting into your account? If so, please let me know in the chat and I'll do what I can to try to help you get into your Nearpod account there. All right. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to walk you through a quick tour of your Nearpod homepage. Okay. The left-hand side, that Nearpod logo that you see on the upper left-hand side, anytime you click on that logo, it'll bring you right back here to your homepage. On that gray navigation bar, you'll see in blue, you'll see My Lessons. That means you're at your lesson library where you can access those lessons you download or create yourself. You'll see a blue Create button next to the folder button. This Create button, when you click on it in the drop down, you'll see lesson, video, activity, or Google Slides. This is how you create lessons yourself. This is how you create Nearpod content yourself. Now, you'll also see in the upper right-hand side, another Create button. It's identical. It does the same thing. It's just in a different spot. Quick Launch. Right next to Quick Launch to the right, you will see your profile. Your profile will either be your image, or it'll be like an icon of some kind. But I want to dive into that profile with you real quick. And it's important because there's some settings that I want you to go through real quick to kind of set you up for success from here on out. When you click on your profile, there'll be a drop down. In that drop down, you'll see lesson settings with a little sprocket wheel thing. So click on lesson settings. That'll take you to the advanced settings. And there's some of these that we need to turn on if we want certain tools available to our students. This first one, it says basic settings. You'll see this first one here says autofill student names. If you want students to use their district login credentials, it will auto populate their name so they don't have to type in their own name. I highly encourage that you get this one turned on because then students can't type in their name. They can't type in anyone else's name. The next option is to enable student note-taking. If you want your students to, you have that note-taking tool, you have to enable it right here. If you don't want students to have that, now I've noticed like in K through 2 and even up to 3 sometimes, that tool could be a distraction. If you have it turned on and say one of your younger students clicks on it, it opens up and they click on one of the drives or email and it starts to take them off the lesson and then they get lost in there. So if you're not going to use the note-taking tool, then I recommend not even turning it on. But then you take a look down at the accessibility settings. This is where the immersive reader tool is. By default, it is off. If you want that powerful tool where students can have the text read out loud and translated, you have to turn it on right here. Otherwise, it won't be available for them. There's some other settings down below that you can kind of go through at your own time, but those are the most important as we get started. Once you turn them on, they're good to go. You don't ever have to go back in there again. And once you're done, simply click on that Nearpod logo in the left-hand side. And upper left-hand side, it'll take you right back to your home page. There we are. All right, so on my screen and on the Nearpod lesson, head on back and make sure you can watch what I'm going to share with you here. There's a couple places, and then I'm going to set you free in your own account to start to kind of do a little exploring. But for now, we're going to take a look at some things. We talked about the quick launch here, right? The quick launch with the rocket, where you can launch an open-ended question or a collaborate board or a timer. If you use that option, you can do that single activity really quick. As I mentioned before, I like to use those ones by themselves to start classroom discussions or even as an exit ticket to get student response. But we're going to talk about then how to find ready to use lessons in our lesson library. That's what we're going to do next. So make sure you're watching my screen here. On the gray navigation bar on the left-hand side, if you scroll down, you'll see Nearpod Lessons or Nearpod Library. My apologies, Nearpod Library. And it has a little magnifying glass. If you click on that, right there, this takes you to our lesson library. This is where you can search our 8,500 plus lessons and content. Now, there was a question in our Q&A section about are 8,500 plus lessons screened for cultural responsiveness? Absolutely, they are. Our content team is very right on top of these lessons, making sure they are culturally responsible. And if you ever have any questions about it as well, all you have to do is to reach out to our content team as well. And so know that they are, we don't let anybody put content in our library. We have a team that is just all about that. Plus any lesson that we bring in from any of the publishers as well goes through our vetting process before anything's posted. So a couple different ways that you can search for content here. One, type in the search bar at the top. If I'm looking for a lesson on fractions, I can simply type in fractions. And what that does is it filters down to any lesson, activity, or video that has to do with fractions. And the list goes on. It's a great way to start, but not the best way to search because you'll notice the different grade levels are all kind of mixed up here. You'll also notice the menu items across the middle. Our featured content is underlined. Our featured content will scroll across the top. You'll notice, for example, we have a group of lessons here for Black History Month, American presidents, celebrating engineering and invention, Nearpod core subject lessons, fostering emotional health, and some drag and drop activities. These scroll across the top and change periodically. If you scroll down though, you'll see all these other tiles that are also featured content. The same information that's up top is down here, plus more. Anything that has to do with the current month that we're in, you'll see lessons on that here. You scroll down, read through all the different topics here. Current events, anything that's happens in the world, we generally have a lesson about it pretty soon to help address students with what's going on. Test prep strategies, Nearpod original videos. Check it out. These are some great lesson packages. Right next to featured content, you'll see videos. This is our video library, thousands of videos that are available to you to use. They're all interactive, meaning there's formative assessment questions already embedded. You can search by subject area, by grade level, or by our publishing partners. Take a look at our partners. You may recognize some of these, Common Sense Education, ESPN Khan Academy, PBS, Smithsonian, TED Ed. We have a lot of amazing partners here as well. You'll also see a tab for just activities. Now, this is if you just want a single slide activity, a single slide lesson. A Nearpod lesson does not have to be 10, 20, or 30 slides long. It can be one activity used strategically. And if you take a look, these are broken down into subject area, grade level, and then also the four different activity types: drag and drop, draw it, matching pairs, and time to climb. Now, time to climb, these are our gamified formative assessments. If you've ever played Kahoot before, this is Nearpod's version of it. And it's even better, in my opinion, because they get to build their own little characters. They have some ownership in it. You'll have students begging to take a quiz. Next to that, you'll see lessons. And if you click on lessons, you can search by subject area here, grade level, or by our different publishing partners. But this is also where you'll find some of our lessons that are built on the virtual reality tool. You'll see Nearpod VR here, for example. Once I click on that, you'll see that 4 different tabs. Now, each one of these tabs, you'll see there's multiple lessons. College tours. We have 51 college tours already prepared. 90 lessons on explorations. If we take a look here, for example, at these explorations, these are fantastic lessons already put together. If you take a look, there's a lot of rigor involved. They're broken up subject area: science, math, social studies as well. But they use virtual reality, and which is incredible. We have an incredible virtual reality tool here. You'll also see in that we've got just 274 field trips already put together for you using that tool, and some Ignite lessons, 128 that are subject specific. They use that VR tool. So for math, science, social studies, and language arts, you can find VR-based lessons there. Now, you can also do a publisher search for your favorite publisher and see if they have any lessons available for you. Now, to me, my favorite way to search, though, and the most efficient in my opinion, is to search using the left-hand gray navigation bar, because I can choose just lessons, or a combination, or just activities, or videos, or a combination of all 3. From there in the standards, I can choose my state. I can do in the scroll down, I can choose the state that I want, choose the subject area I want, the grade level I want, and it will filter those lessons down based on those state standards. If you take a look here, these are all based on those Kentucky 4th grade standards here. Now, if I want to go further than that, I can scroll down and click on strand and search by individual strand. You'll see they're broken down into those different sections. You won't always find a lesson for every individual strand, but it's always worth a shot to try. Once you see a lesson that you want to take a look at, for example, this one right here, I can click on it. What that will do is it'll open up that lesson for me to preview it. And if I search by standards, it'll list that standard out to the side, the standard or standards that are touched on in this lesson. I can see there's 34 lessons in this. I can click the preview button and go through and preview this lesson in its entirety. If I like this lesson and I think I want to use this one, simply click the blue Add to My Lessons button down at the bottom. It'll turn green and it'll say lesson successfully added. So if I click on that Nearpod logo on the upper left-hand side again, it'll take me back to my home. If I scroll down, look at my library, it's the next lesson, it's ready to go. I can start to teach it live, which is synchronous, like I'm running a lesson with you now, or student-paced, where students work at their own time and their own pace. You have some other options as well that we're going to explore. You'll also see I can edit this lesson. And we're going to dive into that in a little bit, but all I'm going to do is to give you some time to explore a little bit here. So at this point in time, I'm going to ask you to go into the Nearpod library, and I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to explore. I'd like you to download a lesson, 1 or 2, up to you. Go through the content, check out the videos, check out the individual activities. Do a search at the top to search for some specific content that would suit your needs. Now, I highly encourage you to check out some of these, like, for example, the fostering emotional health lessons. These are lessons that are a part of our social emotional lesson package. Our social emotional learning package has been unlocked. Typically, it's a premium content that a district has to purchase, but these are lessons that are unlocked for right now. So if you want them, download them into your library and check them out as well. So I'm going to start a timer here for 5 minutes, and I'm going to stay quiet during this time because I want you to search and find some content. When we come back, I'm going to show you how you can edit these lessons to kind of add some help for readers in here, how to differentiate. And then we'll talk about how to launch these lessons with students and how to look at the data in the report section. So 5 minutes. Also spend this time to get a drink of water or anything else you need to do as well. And I will be monitoring that chat the entire time. So if you have any questions, just pop them into the chat there. I'll see you back here in 5 minutes. All right, welcome back, everybody. Our time is up of exploring. I know that's not a lot of time to barely even scratch the surface in that library. There's a lot of content there. So now let's take a move to take that next step. And the next part is, what can you do with these lessons once you get them? And so one of those tools is that you can edit a lesson. Now I have a slide up on the screen right now on your Nearpod lesson, and this is a hyperlink. There's 3 different buttons here. You'll see the quick launch, search the library, and then how to edit a lesson. I'm going to leave these directions here if you're someone that likes to work kind of on your own at your own pace. But while we're doing that, I'm going to go through and show you how to edit a lesson. So the lesson that I downloaded, this math lesson, if you put your cursor over the lesson, you'll see it changes. You get some options here. You've got an option to teach it live or student paced, or there's 3 dots on the upper right-hand side. And this is where you can share this lesson out with colleagues. You can duplicate it to differentiate it. If I wanted to keep one version of this lesson as is, but I wanted another copy for a group of students, I click duplicate and then make all those changes within that. I can add it to different libraries, a school or district library, or one of my own folders. I can get the reports, export it as a PDF, or delete it. But I'm going to click on the edit button in the bottom left-hand side. When you click on the edit button, what it's going to do is open up every slide all in one place. And so you can see right here, I can see all of my lesson here. Now from here, you've got some options. You'll notice content slides, these orange ones that you see here that have the essential question. These are just images, basically. Unfortunately, the immersive reader tool that I shared with you before does not work on a content slide like this. But let's say I have some struggling readers that need some support. What I can do is on any content slide that you see, if you click it once, you'll see an orange box around it. From there, I can delete that slide, copy, paste it, or I can convert it to a draw it, which gives students the drawing tools. But if I click on the slide twice, 2 clicks, it opens it up in our slide editor. From there, you've got some other options. You'll see in the upper top side, it's our slide editor, basically. I can add some pieces to it, images, video, but this audio button right here, the speaker, if I click on it, I have the ability to record audio, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to click it. From there, you'll see you have a red microphone at the bottom. I'm going to click on it and then just read what's on the screen. Essential question: what strategies can we use to subtract 3-digit numbers? And once I click pause, you'll notice my voice has been added. So I'm going to click save. Now it's going to upload my voice to that slide. And once it's done, I simply click save again down below. And then it will take me right back to that lesson. So what's happened is my voice is now permanently attached to this slide. So when a student gets to it, there'll be a play button. They can just simply click on and listen to. And so if they can't read it on their own, I've read it for them. So they can click play and do that. Now, any of these activities that you see, the poll, the draw it activities, you can double click on those, go in and change the questions if you want to. You can also click and hold and move slides wherever you want to reorganize. If I'm going through and taking a look at all these activities, I can make changes. But here's another thing you can do. You can add content to this. You'll see this add content and activities button. If I click that, you have access to our content right here and then activities right here. The activities are the assessment pieces. Content is how we engage our students. So I'm going to talk about these different pieces here. In content, you'll see our slide editor. This is if you want to make a slide on your own. When you open it, it's just a blank slide. You can choose a theme out to the side. If you choose a theme, you're stuck with that theme through the whole lesson. If you want to get creative though, at the top, you can change the layout, add shapes, bring in images, or I can bring in a background. If I want a background image or background color, I just choose what I want. I'm going to say an image. So I can do a safe Google search. I could bring in an image. So maybe I want this right here. I'm going to just choose it and bring it in. It'll bring that. Now you notice it didn't fit up the entire way. I can click on this magnifying glass and just zoom it in a bit. There we go. So you can get as creative as you want with these slides. You can change your text color, of course, like anything you want to, however you want. One of the great things about this is text. You can highlight it and hyperlink it out. So if a student clicks on that word, it'll take them out someplace, which this opens up the door for individual student learning paths. choice boards. I could have 6 different student-paced Nearpod lessons on this same page. Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, Group 4, that sends them all out on individual paths. I usually cover that in an advanced session, but just know that it's possible in here. You can also add animated GIFs or GIFs, however you say it, right here, which makes slides a lot of fun. Now, here's an advantage to creating the slide yourself. Any slide that you create within our slide editor, like I'm doing now, if there's text in it, that immersive reader tool will be available to students when they get to it. So that's one advantage of creating a slide yourself, is it automatically makes that immersive reader tool available to read what's on the screen. All right, so other content, video. This is where you have access to our video library to bring a video into any lesson you want to. You can search our content library. You can upload your own video or simply pull in a video from YouTube. It's a safe YouTube search. Just type in what you're looking for and you can add it right into the lesson as well. Other content, web content. If you want to bring something in from the outside, maybe it's a resource website that you use and on another online tool, you can bring it in and house it right within Nearpod. Maybe it's a Google Jamboard, for example. And so maybe it's a Google Jamboard, you want to bring in a collaborative space. Right here, you just insert the URL. Also, vocabulary. I'm not sure if your district has vocabulary access or not. It is subscription-based, but these are all videos that teach through rap and hip hop. They're fantastic. I think if you don't have a subscription, you're allowed to use 3 of them total, but definitely check those out. 3D content. You can bring in and give students a 3D model. You can see some of our staff picks here, but you'll also see different categories available. So if you're studying cells, for example, give your student a cell. Give them a cell. You can preview any you want. It's small on my screen, but on their screen, it'll take up the entire screen. But they can move it around, zoom in and zoom out to find their own view and really explore the thing. We also have PhET simulations. These are math and science labs that are built right in, split up from elementary, middle, and high school. Now, these are amazing because students can change the variables, change the environment, and test things out over and over again. It's a powerful tool. Virtual reality field trips. Right here, bring the world to the students. Bring the world to the students. There's 330,000 places you could take them. We have some that are just all automatically picked for you here, but you can type in that search a destination and find what you want. For example, if we go to the Sphinx, students can change their view, zoom in, zoom out, and explore any subject area, any grade level. This is a fantastically powerful tool. I love to use these for writing prompts. Just instead of giving a prompt on the board, put them in an environment and let them go. We have some BBC videos, Microsoft Sways, which are real media-rich slide content with a lot of information that you can bring right into your lesson. If you use Microsoft, you can create your own sways and bring them in. You can embed a slideshow within a single slide, bring in audio, and bring in PDFs for students to read. That's content. That's how we can engage our students through the use of media. Now let's talk about activities. If I want to bring an activity, a way to assess my students, and these are your options. You'll notice time to climb. Once again, time to climb is our gamified formative assessment. I can easily create my own. Simply type in your question, your possible answers. Answers can be images as well. But I want you to notice something out to the right-hand side because your district has Premium Plus content. You'll notice right here, this activity bank. And so if you don't have time to create the content yourself necessarily, maybe I need a quiz quickly. I don't have the time to sit and create it myself. You can try to find one that we already have created for you. Simply type in the search what you're looking for, or click on this gray funnel looking thing. It's like a filter button. If you click on it, maybe I'm looking for an English language arts for first grade. Click apply. These are all quizzes that are done and completed for you. Find what you want. I need this one on long and the short U sound. I click on it. Now I have a 6-question quiz that's completed for me. It's already set, ready to go. The timer is set for each question, which I can change if I want to, and I can even add more questions to it. If I'm done, I simply click save. It's now added this to my lesson. It'll be at the very bottom here. There's my time to climb quiz. It's already done. Saves me a lot of time. Other activities, you'll see our drag and drop activity. It's our newest activity where students drag images or text onto a background to where they belong to classify and organize things. once again, you can easily create your own. But you'll also notice we have some that are pre-created for you on the right-hand side. So you can just search to find what you want. For example, angle measurement. If I want to use this one, I click on it. Here it is. I can read the directions for the students. I have right here, students would simply drag the item where it belongs on the screen, saving you a ton of time. Our other activities to assess are open-ended question, which you experienced one of these before, but anytime I load an open-ended question, if I want students to have audio response, all I have to do on the right-hand side is to click enable audio recording. Just like that, it's done, ready to go. Also, you can include reference media. You'll see this reference media button here. If you click on it, I can bring in an image, a voice recorder, which it could be my voice giving some direction, bring in a PDF, a video, audio, or web content, a web link, that students have to use that media to answer the question. They're gonna see that type of interface on a standardized state assessment. Always good practice to include some reference media. Hey, look at this chart, answer the question. Read this article, answer the question. You can also right here notice the timer button. So if I want them to have, say, 2 minutes to answer this question, I can set that timer up for this question right here and click add. So when they get to it, they have 2 minutes to answer that, and that time is up. If you're a math instructor, in our rich text editor here, you'll notice this symbol on the far right side if you click on it. If you want to include any type of math notation in your question type, this is where you can do that with the math tools. All right, other activities, you can see matching pairs. Our matching pairs you also have out to the right-hand side, some that are pre-created for you, that's searchable to find what you want so you don't have to create them yourself. But if you want to create it yourself, simply click add pair, enter the text or an image, and this is exactly how I built the very first activity we did when you joined me today. I just inserted images myself with some text. All right, other activities are quiz. Basic multiple choice quiz. You can include as many questions as you want. Now, one of the great parts about the quiz when you set it up is you have reference media. You can set a timer if you want to. One of the things I love about this as well, though, is that you can have multi-select. For example, to get this question right, you've got to have all of these chosen correct. You can have 3 out of those 5 have to be chosen for it to be correct. So there is a multi-select option in the quiz. Another great thing about the quiz in a live situation is you're watching the data come through live. I can watch students answer the questions. It's red or green next to their name. I see a cumulative pie chart on the left-hand side, just like I did with the poll. So I can gauge where my learners are at live and know that I can start to see if they're really understanding in the moment. Flipgrid. You can bring in Flipgrid yourself. It's a tool that you have to have your own account set up on the side, but Flipgrid's a way for students to respond through video and express some creativity. And when you embed it within Nearpod, they don't have to go out anywhere. It simply opens it right there for them. The draw it activity. You experienced one of these. If I leave it blank, it just gives students a whiteboard. But I can easily upload any background I want. One of my favorite to do is a mood meter, because we really can't progress with our students if we're not in the right place to do that. And so I simply go in and do a safe Google search right here and type in mood meter. And I choose which I want. If I have my littles, my young students, I'd use maybe emojis and resize it to fit the screen here and say, hey, in the directions, circle how you're feeling today. So instantly I have everyone on my screen. They don't have to tell me anything. They can simply privately circle how they're feeling today. So I'll know if I need to touch base with that student before we even get started. But there's lots of different things. I could put anything I want in here. If I want a blank diagram, I simply type in what I'm looking for. I'll use this Venn diagram. Throw it in as the background that students can use. But one thing I want you to notice out to the right-hand side is you do have an activity bank for here too, with backgrounds that are completed for you. Here's a study guide comparison chart. Let's take a look at this one. Here's a chart that's already completed for me. Now with the draw it activity, this one's fun. If you type in the search, type in template, you'll get all these background templates: stem and leaf plot, essay planner, brainstorming web, maps, coordinate grids, you name it. You just find what you want. If I want this essay planner, I click on it. There it is. Students use the text box or the pen tool to fill those in. If I want an exit ticket, just type in exit ticket. And you got all these exit ticket backgrounds that you can use for your students to fill out as well. So it's a very powerful tool, extremely versatile. Now, our other activities, the collaborate board, the sticky notes that we shared, you'll see right here, there's different backgrounds. Now, this is changing at the end of this week. This collaborate board is getting even better. You're going to have a whole lot more backgrounds. If you remember the sticky notes we used on the new version, you can comment on each sticky note, and students can comment as well on the sticky notes anonymously. Plus, students will have the ability to not only respond through text or pictures, they can respond through audio if they want to. So you have a lot more options that as a teacher, you will have the ability to turn those options on or off and really customize it to exactly what you need. You'll also have the opportunity to be able to organize these sticky notes on the screen, where you can build columns. The students can throw these into what columns they want to as well. So it's a very powerful tool that's going to be even better at the end of this week. And then we have their poll, fill in the blank, and memory test. So all those different options to assess. Now, you'll notice I use the blue button up at the top here. And when I created my activity, by default, it loads it at the very bottom as the very last one. And that's okay, because I can drag it where I want to. I can drag this up here, move it a little bit more, but that can be kind of time consuming. If you want to add something between two slides in a lesson, simply click on the white space between them, one click, and then put your cursor over add new. And then there'll be a pop out for add content or activity. Put your cursor over whatever you're looking for, content, and then choose it. So if I want, say, a 3D model between here, simply click on that, choose what I want, click done. And now I've added that piece of content between there. Once I'm all done, I simply click save and exit. And now this lesson is ready to be taught. Now, here's your options for launching these lessons. You'll see it's right here. I can put my cursor over it and launch it live or student paste. So let me change this real quick over here in the Nearpod lesson. You get options here. Live, student paste, and just for videos only, you'll get this front of class mode. So if you download a video in our video library, you can run it all by itself, where the video is the lesson. You'll get that option for front of class, which means students can put their devices down and you project that video up in the front for everybody to watch. However, if I want students to launch live, I'm going to click live lesson. And what's going to happen is I'm going to get a code on my screen like this. This is the code that I can provide to my students. I can simply write it on the board if I want to, have students go to Nearpod, enter this code, and join the lesson. But you'll see some options here. I have an option to connect it right to my Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, or I can copy that link and post it for students to click on somewhere else. However, I do notice too that your district uses Canvas. And so Canvas has its own Nearpod interface, which is fantastic because you can launch the lessons right from Canvas without having to even have a code for students here. But in its simplicity, if you would just put this code up on the board for your students, they could type it in and join that lesson with you. Kind of like I had you join me today. The other option is to launch a lesson student paste. Now, when you launch a lesson student paste, you get the same option with a couple other choices here. So, oh, Google Classroom, thank you. In the notes I had, I saw Canvas. So great, Google Classroom is even better because watch this. If I want to launch this lesson with everybody and I choose student paste, which means it's asynchronous, where students work at their own time and own pace, I click student paste. You'll notice I get a code just like before. And you'll notice a calendar. By default, this code will be good for 30 days. I can go into that calendar though and change it anywhere from a day up to a year that lesson code is good for. Also, let's see. You'll notice that you've got the options down below. If I click on Google Classroom, I can access my Google Classroom, what class I want that lesson to go to, so they won't even need the code. They just simply click on it and start that lesson. So you have the ability to start it and load it to a Google Classroom right from there, which is fantastic. Also with student paste code, you get an option down below. It says require student responses and prevent skipping. If I don't turn that on and a student's in a student paste lesson, they can go right through that lesson without answering a question. They can skip right through things. If I turn this on, it forces them to work sequentially. So they have to submit an answer in an activity before they can even move on. So if that's something you want to do, know that that option is there. You'll also notice a view progress button. This view progress is if I want to get into that lesson while students are working, I can get into that lesson on the background, go into the activities and monitor their progress. They won't even know I'm there. I can't control the screen that they're on, but I can go into that lesson and still monitor progress while they're working live. All right, so after you launch these lessons now, let's take a look at what do you do to see the data? And let's look at the reports section here. In the reports section, anytime I launch a lesson, if I go to my Nearpod home here, the gray navigation bar underneath my lessons, the next tab down is reports. Once I click on that, it'll open up my screen to every session I've ever launched. All these are individual lessons. Now, I may have launched a lesson more than once even. So if I click on a lesson here, see here, not this one, you'll see individual sessions that have launched. Maybe I've used this same lesson for multiple periods during the day. Maybe I use this lesson for period 1 and period 2. You can do the same lesson, just launch it multiple times. Every report is time-stamped and date-stamped, so I know exactly when I launched that. But I can go in and change that if I want to anything. Maybe I can change this to period 1 on this day, period 2 on this day, so that I know for my own organizational purposes what those are. If I look out to the side, it tells me how many students were in that lesson with me out to the side. And what I have to do to look at it is I simply click on it and it opens up a post-session report. I can take a look and see participation percentage for every activity for every student. But also at the top, all the different activities. If I click on the poll, for example, I can look at all the data from the poll. Open-ended question, I can click on each one. I can see there's 3 open-ended questions in this lesson. I can click on this one and see any answers that were there. This is where I would see any student responses, as well as any audio that they may have left as well. Right here, you'll see the audio right here, for example. This is where I can go in and listen to it afterwards. And for this audio, if you need to use it for a portfolio, for example, as a sample of some kind, you'll usually see 3 dots where I can go in and I can download that if I need to save that audio. The drawed activities, I can click on those and see student responses from their drawing activities as well. The collaborate boards, I can always bring up again the time to climb and drag and drop activities as well. I can go in and see all the data from every activity that's here, so I can assess it, just like that. So if I want to download this report, I would simply click downloads right here, and I can download a PDF or CSV file of this entire session view. Or if I want an individual student view as well, I can click on student view and choose that student that I want. If I choose nickname, it highlights all of them, so I'll get all the student reports. I can download them into my drive or into my device that I can then share with those students, or for parent-teacher conferences, or whoever else you need to share those with. If I need to share this report, for example, with an administrator or a specialist, I can also click the share button and email it right to that person as well, a direct copy. All right, so our time is coming up to an end here, but I want to share one more piece with the reports here. If you take a look at reports, and you'll see this house icon. This house icon means that that session was launched student-paced. So to tell the difference between a live session and a student-paced session, you'll see this symbol. If the house is there, that means it was asynchronous or student-paced. If not, it was a live session that was launched. So that's how you can differentiate between the two there. All right, so as our time's coming to a close here, I want to do one more collaborate board with you here. And just to share one thing you learned today that you hope to put into practice with your students. And how will you use Nearpod to support learning in your classroom or with your teachers that you work with? What is one takeaway from today? If you would like to share, I would love to see where you're headed next with it. Now, one question again that popped up, and I'm going to address it again, is with the 8,500 plus lessons that were screened for cultural responsiveness. All of our lessons are screened for cultural responsiveness. Our team, all of our lessons go through a pretty extensive vetting process. We don't let anybody put lessons into our library. They all go through our team. Even the lessons from publishers go through our team. They're all scanned for cultural responsiveness. And so, but if you ever notice anything in any lesson too, you reach out to our team. If something slipped by, they're very responsive to your input as well. And so know that you always have access to our team. And I'll show you all on my screen right now. For your Nearpod homepage, let me go to my home. On my screen that I'm projecting to you, on the Nearpod homepage, you'll also notice this little speech bubble down the bottom, little white speech bubble and a blue dot. If you ever click on that, you have access to our team right there. You can send a message directly. And when we're in, they're not there today because it is a holiday there. And so, but if they're there, you'll always have access to someone and they'll answer and respond to you very quickly. So know that you always have access to our team right from that little bubble on the bottom right-hand side. All right, so taking a look here, I've never used Nearpod. I'm impressed with how easy it is to use and manipulate. Yes, definitely. There's always a learning curve there. But with Nearpod, just get in there and push the buttons, see what happens. You're not gonna break anything. In addition to students, I see this as a great staff development and training tool for conducting trainings. Absolutely. Nearpod's not just for student learners, this is for adult learners as well. Use it in trainings and professional development because then you're modeling its usage as well to teachers. Now, Nearpod can also be used for other ways. For example, staff newsletters. Try giving the staff a Nearpod lesson as a newsletter, then you get responses. A parent communication. Send a lesson code for parents to get on a Nearpod, and then you can get response from them as well. There's some creative ways that you can use it just outside of the classroom even. Yes, so the ELL teachers to utilize the pre-made lessons, absolutely. Definitely check through all that existing content that's there before you create it. I love that because we all know that there's a lack of time, right? There's not enough time. Use the tools that you have available here already. You have so much content available to you, but then you can start to create your own. Now, on a second session, like 102 Nearpod, we talk about how you bring in your own content, PowerPoints, Google Slides you've used in the past. You can bring them in and Nearpodize them and add our activities to those. So just know that that's available. See the immersive reader. Yes, I love what I'm seeing here. Different manipulatives that are there. The immersive reader tool, it opens up some doors. And if you got access on this tool, didn't get access to this, reach out to your district tech coordinator, whoever's in charge, because sometimes all it is a matter of flipping a switch to get you access to it. If you're supposed to have the access to it, not everybody always gets it right off the bat, but sometimes it slips through the cracks. Let whoever it is in your district know, send them an email, say, hey, do I have access to Nearpod? It's a matter of just a quick fix. And then all of a sudden you have access to all of it. So definitely reach out to whoever's in charge there. Oh, thank you so much, everybody. Our time, I respect your time, but I want to share one more resource with you before we go. If you take a look at your Nearpod homepage, the gray navigation bar on the left-hand side, if you scroll to the very bottom of it, you'll see teacher resources. That will always be there for you. Click on it. It'll take you to our resource page. If you take a look, if you scroll down, you'll see our calendar. These are live public webinars that you can attend for free. You'll see how-to videos, and then right below that, how can we help? Teaching with Nearpod. Directions on how to do anything you want to learn how to do. Step-by-step directions with video. This one on the bottom, second from the bottom, how to create subplans in Nearpod. This is golden. It's never been easier to create subplans where you don't have to leave home. I don't know how many years I went to school sick because it was just too hard to create subplans. And you can't do that anymore. And use Nearpod for that. So it's all right here. Definitely check those out right from your Nearpod homepage. It's at the bottom on the left-hand side, teacher resources. But I thank you so much for your time today. I have a quick post-session evaluation. It's just a quick feedback is a gift. If you have a minute, it's much appreciated. If not, completely understand as well. But please feel free to reach out on Twitter, jpclark03. I'd love to celebrate what you're doing. Write down my email if you have any questions. This session right here was called Getting Started. I'm going to put this in the chat. Getting Started. And my name is Jason Clark. If you have a minute to fill out the form, it'd be very much appreciated. Now, also just thank you so much for what you do. What you do is so incredibly hard. It's so demanding, and just know that you're appreciated. Hopefully you found something today that can provide a little bit of a spark to start getting all of the voices in our classrooms to be heard. And sometimes as teachers, we just need something, right? Especially now when time's an issue, you're overworked. I am sure some of you are covering more students and more classes than to help each other out. Use this tool and leverage it. For one, it's engaging. Our students need engagement. And teachers, we need engagement. So thank you so much for what you do. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And once again, know that I'm here to support you. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, have a wonderful day.